Welcome to the interview on France 24. I'm Philip Crowther in Washington. Today we're at the French Embassy here in the US capital, just a few days before the inauguration of French President-elect Emmanuel Macron. And our guest on the interview today is the French ambassador to Washington, Ambassador Gérard Araud. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Mr. Ambassador, first of all, you've been pretty involved in the campaign of Mr. Macron. Your job title, essentially, while you were French ambassador here as well, was diplomatic advisor to Mr. Macron. Does this mean that you're on your way now to Paris? Are you going to join the government of the president-elect?
You shouldn't trust so much the press. You know, there are rumors, and for the moment, there are only rumors. I am the French ambassador in Washington, D.C., and I enjoy very much this job.
Do you want to be part of the government of Emmanuel Macron?
Well, again, I won't be part of the government, because the government, you have to be minister, and I won't be minister. But for the moment, I am focusing on my job, and my job is to be ambassador to the US.
Now, you are surprisingly open about this election and critical of Marine Le Pen, the Front National candidate, before the election and before the runoff. Indeed, you said her election would be a total disaster. Do you feel relieved now that that disaster has been averted? Do you feel like a disaster has been averted?
No, first, you know, I have been a diplomat for 35 years, so I do know that a diplomat, that a French civil servant, is not supposed to get involved in the political campaign. But this time it was quite different because Madame Le Pen has said that France should get out of the European Union, out of the euro. So it's not any policy. It was something which was, in a sense, changing all the French foreign policy, the French foreign policy which has been implemented for 70 years by all the governments. So I felt constrained by my conscience, obliged to say what I was thinking about it. So now, of course, I'm relieved. Relieved because France has resisted to the populist wave, which is that I think all the Western democracies are facing right now. And we saw Brexit, we saw the election of Donald Trump. So in a sense, it's a great result. But at the same time, this populist outburst is expressing the concerns of a lot of our citizens. And I really do think that now the priority, after being relieved, the priority for the new president, the priority for the new government is to respond to these concerns.
You were here for the election of President Donald Trump. There was a tweet from you at the time. You tweet quite a lot, Mr. Ambassador, and it was this: a world is collapsing before our eyes. Did it in the end? Did this world collapse because of the election of Mr. Trump?
I think I wanted to say, you know, in 140 digits, it's quite difficult, but I wanted to express the fact that nobody has seen Brexit coming. All my British friends were convinced that it wouldn't happen, and nobody had seen, as forecast, the victory of Donald Trump. At 6 p.m. on November the 8th, we were calling the team of Madame Clinton, and they were telling us she is elected. So in this tweet, I was not criticizing Brexit, I was not criticizing Donald Trump. I was simply saying that we, the elites, actually, we had not seen, we had not forecast that something major was happening in our societies, that our world actually was collapsing.
Have you been able to adapt to it, to that surprise? To the elites maybe not having their say as much after all?
I do hope, you know, really, I do hope that Emmanuel Macron, who is quite an unusual candidate, is not the usual suspect of the French politics. You know, in a sense, he's also a populist, but running on a centrist platform. I really do hope that Emmanuel Macron will be the good answer to these questions.
You've already put two populists in the same basket, Donald Trump here in the United States, Marine Le Pen in France. France has been able to not elect a populist. Do you feel a sense of superiority because France has not done what the United States did, and something that you didn't want to see happen in the first place anyway?
Well, you know, don't ask to a French if he has a sense of superiority. Of course we have. We have had it for 1,000 years. No, more seriously, what is striking in the French election is that we had our Trump, we had our Sanders in a way, But the difference is that we had Macron, and in a sense, I think that Macron is a populist candidate. You know, in a sense, he is somebody who is campaigning out of the system. It was the first time in his life that he was running for office, but simply his platform was a centrist, pro-European, really forward-looking platform. And that's something that Madame Clinton was unable to do.
There are plenty of similarities between the French election and the US election in November of 2016. Let me just talk with you about two of them. First of all, hacking. There was hacking into the DNC emails, the Democratic National Committee, and also the emails of the Clinton campaign. There has been a hack into the campaign emails of Emmanuel Macron. What was different between the two countries? Was one country able to defend itself better? The NSA, after all, just a few days ago, said that it had warned its counterparts that a hack was coming. First of all, did you know it was coming?
No, I think, as you know, just after the American election, there were contacts between the intelligence services, European intelligence services, and the American one. So on the French side, there was warning coming, and we had actually warned the political parties to be prepared to hacking. And again, from Washington, D.C., I don't know everything, but I have noticed that we have been told today that actually the Macron team was ready, and that there was a real strategy to defend the computer system of En Marche. And apparently it went well.
So were the French authorities warned beforehand? Did they know more than the US authorities did when the hack happened here into the Clinton campaign email system? What was done better in France?
I think the difference may be, it's simply that we were warned in advance, and considering what happened in the US, we took the threat quite seriously. And I know that our German friends, their elections are coming in October. Our German friends are doing the same.
Here's another similarity between the two elections, France and the United States. The emergence of fake news, now a term being used maybe a little bit too much by the US president, but it's a real thing. Fake articles, fake news, things that simply didn't happen and that can influence an election. This happened in the United States. There was also fake news in France. It didn't seem to have as big of an impact as it did here in the United States. Why would you say that was the case?
I don't know. I think first, I guess, I read that Facebook had suspended 30,000, accounts. I guess that the internet providers in California, have been made aware of the problem with the Clinton-Trump elections, and have been more active in fighting the fake news.
Let's talk a little bit about climate change. There's a big decision coming up for the Trump White House. We know that there will be a decision on the Paris climate change agreement after Donald Trump's first trip abroad. It'll be at the end of this month. A decision on whether to stay in the Paris climate change agreement or not. What can you do as an ambassador? What can France do to keep the United States in this agreement? There's a serious risk of the United States leaving it.
Well, actually, I think since November the 8th, have been campaigning, in a sense, on the Hill with the members of the Congress, but also with the members of the new administration, to convince them that whatever is their energy policy, they don't need to get out of the Paris Agreement. If we got this agreement with 193 countries, it's precisely because this agreement is based on the respect of the national sovereignties. And so it's an agreement which is not legally binding in terms of the American constitutional law, because really the Obama administration knew that it couldn't get ratified by the Senate, so that's the reason why legally it's not binding. And secondly, every country is simply tabling its own proposal, its own national contribution. So again, the US may change their national contribution, they may reduce the goals. We wouldn't like it, but they can do it. So there is no reason to get out of the Paris Agreement, but I think ideological reason from the far right. So it's really the message that we have been really conveying to the Americans. And President Macron, there was the first phone call between President Trump and President Macron. And usually in these phone calls, it's only congratulations and friendship. But President Macron raised only one issue, and it was precisely climate change. To say that it was very important for us that the US remain in the framework of the Paris Agreement, and President Trump has answered that actually he had not taken a decision. So I hope that in the coming weeks, with the G7 meeting that you were referring to, we will be able, with the closest allies and partners of the US, Germany, France, Japan, Canada, that we will be able, and Italy, we will be able to convince the President Trump to remain in the agreement.
Finally, Mr. Ambassador, you tweet a lot. You know your social media. There's another man in the White House just up the road who also tweets a lot. Just want to ask you this hypothetical question at the very end. If you were able to write one tweet to Donald Trump and he would read it and he might react to it, what would that be? What would you tell the US president?
Well, actually, it's very bold, you know, really to try to imagine that an ambassador really it's, you know, I simply would say that the liberal order, has been the basis for our peace and prosperity for 70 years. So let's modernize it, but let's keep it.
That's pretty much 140 characters.
I'm sure that I can make it in 140 characters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for this interview.
A pleasure.
And thank you very much for watching France 24. Plenty more news coming up.
My name is Maeve McMahon. I'm the Brussels correspondent for France 24. I keep an eye on NATO, Belgium, and all the horse trading that goes on behind the scenes of the EU institutions. You can catch all my reports on the news here on France 24.
Maeve McMahon, one of the